have to admit the FTN Fantasy Podcast intro is kind of a bop. Kind of like, I'm rocking with it. Hey, everybody, it's Aaron Schatz. I am from FTN Fantasy, and I'm with Mike Tanier of themessenger.com, and we are here with the Schatz and Tanier NFL Podcast. Week 3 preview edition, our look ahead to the games of what turned out to be not a great weekend of games. There's really not a lot of winning team versus winning team matchups. Like the matchups, there's a lot of 2-0 versus 1-1 where the teams have had, are kind of fraudulent a little bit. And then we were talking earlier, when we get to 4:00, the 4:00 games, it's ridiculous. Like you either get to see the Cardinals, the Panthers, or the Bears in the 4:00 game. Like apparently before the season, the schedule makers talked themselves into this idea that the Bears were going to be a good team,
right,
and put them against the Chiefs in the what's essentially is the national game.
Ugh.
Although most of the South is getting Dallas and Arizona, and it's just not a good selection of games this week. Jim Steckschulte wants to know if we would have played the FTN theme music at a wedding reception. It would be a good to intro when you're bringing in the bride and groom and the groomsmen and everything after the ceremony is over and you're bringing them in for dinner.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the perfect.
And
the bridesmaids marching out. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it'd be good.
You talk about those 4:00. I got a quick prop for you because there are a lot of really high spread games this week. Biggest winning margin on Sunday across the league, but for Sunday only, over 26.5 at -110. So will there be a blowout, a 26.5 blowout? You get Cowboys versus Cardinals. You don't get tonight's game in this. You get Cowboys versus Cardinals. You get Chiefs versus Bears. You get Jaguars against the Texans, which could wind up being a goofball game. Do you like it? It's only -110.
I have no idea what the numbers are on this. So I probably would shy away from it.
I'm probably going to play it to create something of interest in those 4:00 games.
That's true.
Root for some
blowouts.
Yes.
Speaking of which, let's start with tonight's game, which is the New York Football Giants at the San Francisco 49ers. The line right now is 49ers -10.5. Right now, the 49ers are second in DVOA through 2 weeks, and the Giants are dead last. It's sort of interesting. I went in to look at the numbers from the Arizona Giants game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you have to kind of go play by play to figure out why DVOA liked the Cardinals more than the Giants, because the Giants had more yards per play.
Right.
But it's but overall, when it comes to predictive of the future, DVOA feels like the Cardinals outplay the Giants a little bit. And then, of course, in week 1, the Giants got completely clobbered.
Yeah. I was guessing because I saw the Giants still at the bottom of DVOA. And I was just wondering if it was number of plays. Like the Giants in that comeback, I don't think they ran tons and tons of plays. I think they just
So that's probably still being outnumbered by their horrible week 1. I mean, they were horrendous for 6 quarters.
Yes.
And then really good for 2 quarters.
Right. And again, there's no opponent adjustment. So it's not like, really good against the Cardinals. It's just not enough there. Of course, we've got no Barkley tonight. We've got no Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, that's a bigger, honestly. I mean, running backs don't matter and everything.
Right.
For all Saquon's talent, Andrew Thomas is a bigger loss, especially against the San Francisco pass rush.
Yeah.
Because that's Nick Bosa. I mean, that's Nick Bosa's side, right?
That's got to be Nick Bosa's side. If it's not, it's Drake Jackson's side, and you have all these problems up the middle. There was one thing the Giants could hang their hat on, and that was good left tackle play. Maybe you could game plan around that to some degree. That is gone.
Thomas, by the way, is a great example of why you do not give up on players after their first year.
Right.
Because he was terrible as a rookie.
Yes.
And he was so much better after that. He's been so much better after that.
Giants are hoping Evan Neal does the same thing, but it's been
work in progress so far. Let's put it politely. One thing I did with this game, or I'm going to do, I haven't placed it yet. First half spread is 49ers minus 7.5. And the 49ers tend to get these leads. They tend to play very well in the first half, not last week, but in general.
And then I don't have a lot of faith in them cleaning, not just like playing for field goals in the second half. So I'm kind of looking at saying 49ers are going to win this one. They're going to win this one handily. I'm a little worried about the spread. I might take the first half spread -7.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the 49ers are such a good all-around team.
Yeah.
Offense, defense. This is just, it doesn't seem like a really great matchup. The Giants, I mean, I like Dable as a coach, and, Daniel Jones is better than what he showed through the first 6 quarters, but the 49ers are just the better team.
Right. They don't have the bodies to keep up. It just feels like a home team pulls away on field goals in the second half Thursday night special.
Yeah. There'll be sloppiness.
Right. We're just like, just get a turnover, kick the field goal, kick it back, 3 and out.
If you're watching us live, by the way, don't forget that on YouTube, you can make comments and we will reply to your comments and questions. We're covering certain games, but you can ask about any game. And we can talk about a lot of games. Let's move on to Sunday at 1 p.m. Now, the biggest game, a Sunday at 1 p.m., is the Titans at the Browns. I mean, these are 1-1. Both teams are 1-1. The Titans make the playoffs in 51% of sims if they win, 23% if they lose. Browns, it's 76% if they win and 51% if they lose. Like, I adjusted our Dave ratings this week for the loss of Nick Chubb.
Right.
But it's still kind of going on priors when it comes to Deshaun Watson, the idea that Watson should be good. And the fact is that defense is second in the league right now in DVOA. Right. That defense has been, like, we thought the defense would be improved, and the defense has been fantastic, although some of that is, Joe Burrow is hurt and Kenny Pickett in the Pittsburgh offense has been awful. So I don't know how much it's the Browns defense and how much it's who they played.
I think it's a lot the Browns defense. You look at those two teams. Those two teams aren't supposed to be a joke.
No.
By any stretch of imagination, and they're both getting hammered there. And I think the Titans, who have no speed at wide receiver and kind of a suspect offensive line, are going to get hammered.
Well, they have some speed. They have Treylon Burks.
Treylon looked fast when getting covered by the Chargers. I think everybody looks fast right now getting played by the Chargers. And they don't have number 3. I think that this is a big game for the Browns defense. One number I picked up here that might be distorting the way we look at the Browns right now: penalty differential. They're at -75 yards through 2 games. Okay, they had penalty problems obviously on Monday night. Penalty problems that you didn't really notice against the Bengals. And I think we all noticed, like, Deshaun was out there. He's ripping face masks and doing some weird things in that game. They've had six holding penalties so far. This is a team that wants to control the clock, run the ball, protect their quarterback, has some backups playing at the tackle positions. They're having a hard time with penalties right now.
I don't know what to think about Deshaun Watson right now. The fact is, first of all, he looked much better in the second half of the Cincinnati game than he did in the first half of the Cincinnati game. And I was like, okay, well, maybe, whatever. He's just had a bad half and he's coming around. Then he looked bad against Pittsburgh. And then we have the 6 games from last year. 6 games from last year.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do about the fact that we now have 8 games of this guy being like bad? Like, at what point do we say all the prior play with Houston that was 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, coming into the season, my feeling was very strong. We have this huge sample of Deshaun Watson being good and 6 games of them being bad. Now it's 8 games of him being bad, and they are the more recent games. And eye test wise, I've watched both games. He doesn't look good. He's bouncing passes to guys. Like, he doesn't look accurate.
Right. And that, like, last year, you could say, man, this is complete rust, and he's going to bounce the ball because his technique may have lapsed a little bit. Not this year. The one thing I noticed, and it was, I forget the play, it was not TJ Watt, it was not Alonzo Highsmith. He got chased down from behind scrambling. Okay. So you got a guy.
That's not what Watson used. That's not what used to happen to him.
He was never Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, but he was a runner, and now he's gone into, like, he has had some rushing success, but a guy who maybe isn't escaping as quickly as he could have. And, on the one hand, he's not old, and it wasn't like torn up knee. This was a whole different situation. On the other hand, I wonder, is this somebody who had the best practice habits and off-field habits in the world? There's evidence to suggest that no, that might not be the case. And in that case, 2 years off could really have impacted him, what he can sort of do physically.
Yeah. One thing to note, the Titans are dead last in offense on third down so far this year. So that is something to watch for in this game. Tannehill, it's interesting. The actual efficiency by DVOA was not good, but a PFF thought he had a great game last week.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A couple of deep balls where, again, Burks got open. I don't know if it was Jackson or the other guy, and Hall's one in. I think Hopkins had a deep ball there. He had a big rushing play, which I think was schemed up well and defended horribly. But like on third down, Hopkins is your get open guy, and he's more of a 50-50 ball, give it to me in traffic kind of guy. They need to stay on schedule, which means they need to be able to run the ball against what I think is a pretty good to excellent Browns run defense right now.
Yes. Both of these run defenses. The Titans are 23rd against the pass so far this year, second against the run.
Wow.
So that run defense is still stalwart. And of course, no Nick Chubb. So enjoy Jerome Ford for 17 carries for 40 yards.
And Hunt is back, but I don't know how much he'll be able to play. And I don't know where they go to. Maybe you'll see Elijah Moore a little bit more as a sort of
running guy.
Yeah. We've seen not much of him so far through 2 games.
Bills at Commanders. Oh, I guess I should ask you for a pick first. It's Browns minus 3.5. What's your pick?
Taking the Browns. Taking the Browns. Don't understand the Titans right now. I think that they're like a 5-win team.
Yeah. Well, more than that. I think they're more like a 7-win.
A 7-win team,
but yeah.
Because you got a sweep of the Houston and everything in there. So,
Bills at Commanders. Bills make the playoffs 87% with a win, 72% with a loss. Commanders 57% with a win, 37% with a loss. Well, with a win, they would be 3-0.
Yeah. 3-0.
Here's a fun stat, by the way. I think this is just random variation in the early part of the season. Washington is the number 2 offense on second down. Buffalo is the number 1 defense on second down. Like, I've always tried to figure out, does second down splits mean anything?
Right.
Like, you're like, what's special? We always talk about first down, that's special, and third down, that's special, but we never think about second down. But second down is interesting because it often provides this, like, if second and long, you really need to pass. Teams that run in second and long tend to lose. But with second and short, gives you this cornucopia of opportunities. Like you can go for the shot play, or you could just get the first down. Anyway, I don't know whether that means anything. It probably doesn't mean anything. But it's interesting. It's interesting. So.
After 20 years, if you haven't found it, it's probably not there.
There's plenty of stuff I haven't found.
Right. Because you're right. It's probably the residue of these other factors. So it's residue of first down success, or your willingness to possibly take third and long, or your ability to take shots in second and short situations. So
Howell has been better, I think, than expected.
Yes.
Howell has been better than Ritter. Right? Like, if you think about Ritter and Howell are the 2 guys who are the later round pick. Purdy is his own thing because it's the Shanahan offense.
Right.
Ritter and Howell were the guys that were like, let's give the offense to these later round picks and see what happens. And Howell has been better than Ritter so far, but I certainly don't want to make any long-term judgments about either guy, especially about Howell after what's effectively 3 games, 1 game last year and 2 games this year. But their defense, we thought their defense would be pretty good this year. It was pretty good last year. It's been pretty good this year. They've been better with takeaways than last year, which is what we thought would happen, and that's what has happened. So, Josh Allen, this is not the easiest game in the world for him. If he wants to go out there and be gunslinger guy, he's going to throw a pick. It's going to happen.
And by the way, the Commanders have 3 dropped interceptions already.
Oh, wow.
Their turnovers. Now, remember, it's been Joshua Dobbs and Russell Wilson who looked good for like 15 minutes, and then everything got weird, as things often get weird at this point in his career with him. But it is worth noting that the other thing is they gave up a couple of deep passes early to the rookie receiver. I keep wanting to say Denzel Mims. It's not Denzel Mims.
Marvin Mims.
It's Marvin Mims. So I think that that Josh Allen will try to take some shots. And in fact, we've got a parlay up here. I'm trying to find it. I have a prop, and it is Josh Allen over 300 yards. And I'm just trying to get the juice on it.
I wouldn't do it.
No?
No, I think that Washington's defense is pretty good. But I think that there's a good chance that Buffalo wins by a nice amount, which means they're running late in the game.
Yeah, well, it's Buffalo.
But they win by a nice amount because I'm still not a Howell believer, and I think, and I'm still a believer in the Buffalo defense. Even the Buffalo defense had a couple of bad run defense plays against the Jets, and then was fantastic last week. So
I'm trying to pull up the interception over under, which will be 0.5, but I want to get the juice for Buffalo. But one thing about Hal is they're trusting him to throw downfield, which they don't trust Ritter to do. They're letting him take some shots to McLaurin. They're also putting together a robust screen game to him, which helps. Eric Bieniemy has been calling some pretty good games.
Yes.
Shouldn't be surprising.
Well, we don't know. I mean, my feeling about Bieniemy coming into the season was he was a good gamble to take as an offensive coordinator.
Yep.
But he had never called plays. So we had no idea how he would call plays. Just because he's sharing an office with Andy Reid doesn't mean that he's going to be Andy Reid. So we didn't know. We had no idea.
Right. So far, it's been pretty productive. Again, against a good defense last week, certainly. By the way, 0.5 interceptions for Josh Allen. The over is plus 100.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, get it.
I'm on it.
He tried to throw one last week. It bounced off Nate Hobbs' hands. So
the pressure will come. Washington will bring the pressure, right? That's not where I feel like Buffalo wins the game. I feel like Buffalo wins the game on the other side with their defense.
Yeah, agree.
It's Buffalo minus 6.5.
I'll take Buffalo on that.
It's a hard one. The DVOA system likes the Commanders slightly.
Okay.
Slightly. I guess I think I would take the Commanders because I think it's going to be lower scoring, but I'm Mr. Buffalo. It's a hard one. I probably wouldn't bet this one.
Yeah, I'm not planning on betting it, except for that over.
Except for that over on the interceptions for Josh Allen. Because even if they win, he's going to
fork one out.
Falcons at Lions, 1 p.m. Here's another 1 p.m. game. Falcons make the playoffs 89% of our sims if they win, 69% if they lose. Lions, 68% if they win, 44% if they lose. Line is Lions -3. It's interesting. The Lions defense has been better against the run than the pass this year, but of course the Falcons offense is totally driven by the run.
Right.
So it will be interesting to see if the Lions can possibly stop the Algier Robinson connection.
Algier still gets top billing. The Falcons are so weird. One thing I did notice, Aiden Hutchinson does not have a sack yet. Depending on where you get your source of hurries and pressures, he leads the NFL in hurries and pressures, but he has not yet gotten a sack.
And the Falcons pass. I think the pass blocking has not been as good as we thought it was going to be going in. Based on past seasons, they've had some troubles.
Yeah, they've been running the ball very well. They've been run blocking well, but they've had a hard time protecting Ritter, which is odd because Ritter is never dropping back the pass for more than a quarter of a second. And the pass rush really was everywhere. I think the Seahawks did a nice job. Geno at one point ran around in circles and took an unnecessary sack late in the game, but from somebody else. I think the Lions should be able to get pressure in this game.
I feel like at this point I may have given up on Kyle Pitts until they get a new quarterback. Like Drake London is getting his, but the Kyle Pitts, we keep waiting for the Kyle Pitts breakout. We know the talent is there. But it's just he just doesn't seem like a big part of the offense.
Right. And I don't understand what the issue is. I mean, I get he's not a inline blocker. You're not going to use him like that. As a slot receiver doing possession stuff, he should wind up getting 6 catches a game.
Yeah.
In any other system, it's okay, well, he's not much of a blocker. He's like Dallas Goedert. We're going to fake it, get it to him over the middle, and he's going to end with 6 catches for 68 yards because he'll break some tackles. I don't know why that's not part of their offense.
Flipping it around and looking at the Lions offense, the Lions are the number 1 offense so far passing on first downs, where the Falcons are the number 30 defense. And A.J. Terrell has definitely had a bounce back year after he declined last year, but I don't know about the rest of that secondary. I mean, they're not Jesse Bates is good. I mean, the cornerbacks, the rest of the cornerbacks.
Yeah, don't know about the corner. Their pass rush has improved, but I don't know where to find the level on their pass rush. Again, you're getting to Bryce Young. That's that offensive line. That offense is a mess. That doesn't give you much of a read.
Yeah. Lions -3. What's your pick?
Taking them. Taking
Lions. Yeah, I'll go with Lions.
I don't want to live in a world with the 3-0 Falcons. I don't want to live in that world.
I mean, welcome to the NFC South, baby. I didn't think the Buccaneers would be here, but the Saints and the Falcons don't shock me at all.
Right. I thought the Saints would be on our list today. I don't think they're on our list.
No, let's talk about 4:00. The Panthers are a 4:00 game. We're going to skip them, and most of the South is getting Arizona and Dallas. Let's not talk about. Let's just talk about the Bears a little bit, because Bears at Chiefs. Justin Fields, I think everybody, it's a kind of amazing how in 2 weeks we've gone from Justin Fields' possible breakout MVP candidate to everybody agreeing that the Bears are terrible and this guy just can't do it.
Yeah.
I was there, I almost feel like they've gone past me. Like I was there in the preseason and now like conventional wisdom has not only come to my level, like I feel like conventional wisdom has gone past me to the point where I'm more optimistic about Fields now than conventional wisdom is.
Right. And Fields opened his mouth this week and he talked about how, he didn't say overcoached, but that's how the blurb got separated out. And then he had to go back and walk back his thing. So it's open season on Justin Fields because he gives you some red meat in terms of him, speaking out about the issues, in addition to the fact that there are these obvious issues. But you're right. I think you and I, we live in this probability world. And we live in this world of, spreads of possibilities. And with Fields, I was like, well, there's still this right side of the curve where he could be that guy, but it was going down to 10%, 9%, 3%, 2%. Whereas this other side of the coin was, well, maybe he'll be a scrambling Daniel Jones, or maybe he'll be a nothing. And all those probabilities were on the table. Well, the good side of the curve is off the table now. I don't think, and I think a lot of people are living in the good side of the curve. Oh, he's going to come around. He's going to be this guy. Yeah. And we were always over here.
I will say Justin Fields leads the NFL in DVOA on deep passes of 16 or more air yards. There are 7 of them.
7 of them. Okay.
But he's in last place on all other passes. And of course, that doesn't count sacks. He takes a gazillion sacks.
What's so frustrating, and we'll talk about that, Jim, because I'm watching JT.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jim Steckschulte points out that JT O'Sullivan's QB school on YouTube had a 95-minute breakdown on Fields.
And it felt
from
like
the
5 minutes.
Bears-Bucks game, and it was not good.
It was like watching Thor Ragnarok. Where did the time go? I'm so entertained by this video, and that's true. And so true. I completely lost my train of thought
on what you were saying about Fields, and the pass blocking has been kind of good. They're 11th in ESPN's pass block win rate. He just holds the ball so long. My God, Justin.
Right, and there are some places to go with it. And JT O'Sullivan does take some shots at Kmet, takes a lot of shots at Claypool, which I think we all knew were coming if you followed Claypool's career closely. But it is frustrating. I see Fields not being, very technically sound, definitely missing open opportunities, definitely locking on too much. Getsy refuses to give him what he's good at. The deep shots, just program up the deep shots, just throw it.
And designed runs. Why are they not running more designed runs for Fields?
Yes, and that's the thing. They have taken that out of the game plan almost entirely, and that's almost like a spite maneuver. That's a spite maneuver. Okay, you're not learning this, so we're not going to give you this, which we should do because it will win us games and maybe give you a chance. Okay, if Claypool is bad at a lot of things, he can probably still do jump ball. I think Justin Fields can fake a handoff, do a jump ball. Throw that. No, we never call that. That's not part of it. It's almost like here's the West Coast offense. We know you're bad at this. Go execute it. And you get what you get.
Yeah. And also the defense is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the defensive coordinator just quit, which is very complicated. We're not going to get into all the craziness here, but he's gone. So now they have to have a new defensive coordinator on top of the fact that the defense doesn't really have the horses.
And Braxton Jones, left tackle's hurt.
Yeah. So that's good too.
Yeah.
So the line is 12.5. Chiefs minus 12.5.
Yeah, that's high.
It's high, and the Chiefs do have a habit of taking their foot off the gas.
Yeah, or running the Blake Bell play at the goal line 6 times instead of just.
But I feel like it's not. I guess I would go Chiefs if I had to play this game.
I would go Chiefs, or I wouldn't even go with a first half over on this because they can noodle around on the first half. Like, here's all our new weird play calls and stuff like that. Take the Chiefs. There's no reason to have any faith in the Bears right now. So if you're not going to take the Chiefs, don't be like, oh, I got backdoor cover. I smell it. No, get out of there. Eject.
All right, let's talk about one more game, and that's the 8 p.m. game where NBC is just trying to convince us that this is a huge rivalry, which it is for anybody who was alive in the 70s. Steelers at Raiders. This is actually the most important Sunday game for playoff odds this week.
Wow.
The most important game for playoff odds overall is Eagles at Buccaneers. But the most important Sunday game is the night game. Steelers, 56% make the playoffs, 56% with a win, 31% with a loss. Raiders, who our preseason projections like more than other people, 46% with a win, 22% with a loss. The Steelers are last in offense, but I do want to point out that they're not last by leaps and bounds.
Right.
There was a EPA graph that went around the internet on Twitter showing them way worse than everybody else. But by DVOA, they're only slightly worse than the Jets. And they're not a historically bad offense.
No.
They're just this year's worst offense. Vegas currently 31st on defense. So something's got to give.
Right. If there's any hope that Matt Canada is going to call a game that makes us like think about him as like somebody as a master schemer, if this was an opportunity for somebody besides George Pickens to make a play in that offense, this is the week to do it because you have a Raiders defense that's pretty much Max Crosby, and then everything else is,
Who are those? Oh, we just lost something from the back. I think that was the almanac.
It was the almanac.
Oh, the almanac is leaping to its own death. That's how excited it is about watching the Steelers and the Raiders.
The Raiders. We're talking about the Raiders.
The Vegas is last. Their running game is last so far this year, by the way. Interesting. ESPN, the Raiders are second in pass block win rate, but 24th in run block win rate.
Wow. So
not getting. We're not really getting a lot of Josh Jacobs. We're not getting Josh Jacobs the holes that he needs, and the Steelers defense has been better against the pass than the run. So if this was, if they want to run Jacobs this week, they should have some success, and that's better than letting T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith come after you all day. But that's another. Something's got to give. Either the Raiders running game has to have a good game or the Steelers running defense has to have a good game.
And what I anticipate McDaniels is going to do is he's just going to run that ball. He's going to get the I formation. There'll be two tight ends at times, etc. And he will accept some of these 2-yard runs and everything in the hopes of generating some big plays and in terms of protecting Jimmy Garoppolo for this game. That's kind of how they did it against the Broncos. A team, with a big pass rush, generally speaking, and a team with a good secondary, and they turtled a win, and that's what I think they're going to try to do is turtle a win here.
The Raiders really are in some ways similar. Yeah, Jim Steckschulte says that Jacobs running against the Bills was like a snuff film.
Yeah,
with McDaniels coaching the Raiders, there are a lot of similarities between the Raiders and the Patriots. I feel like this year, the Raiders are what the Patriots would look like if they had a number one receiver instead of a defense.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But the philosophy of how they play, Greg Bedard was on 98.5 The Sports Hub, and I was listening to it on the way to run some errands a couple of days ago. He was just lambasting the way the Patriots defense at this point.
Defense?
He feels like they have the horses and they're not using them.
Defense?
That they played that 3 safeties deep against Miami, that they were basically like, come have yardage. You have as many yards as you'd like, But he was like, you spend all your draft picks on defenders. Why don't you let them go out? Because put them in man coverage. Let your pass rushers go after the guy. It was interesting.
There's this man named Tyreek Hill. There's this man named Tyreek Hill.
Well, yeah.
Tyreek Hill. And the guy covering him would be a rookie. Gonzalez is playing well, but is a rookie. And so you keep your safeties back.
Yeah, the three safeties back. It'll be interesting to see if other teams do that against Miami.
Right.
And basically, just like, go ahead with the Raheem Mostert. Go ahead. It's fine.
Right.
We'll take it. Speaking of which, who wants to give some fantasy advice? Dylan Finnick says he just traded Mostert for Ayuk in a 12-team league. Ayuk is number 1 in receiving DVOA right now.
He's nursing injuries.
But, Mostert is, I guess they're not going to trade for Jonathan Taylor. That was the fear about Mostert, was that Miami would trade for Jonathan Taylor. But at some point, A-Chain is going to be healthy. They're going to use A-Chain some more. A-Chain. So, Steelers at Raiders. The line is Raiders minus 2.5.
Riding or dying with the Steelers at this point, especially if I'm going to get points against a bad team. Okay. I think I'm
with you. Steelers plus 2.5. The other one I'll point out is the system went 6-0 on its high confidence overs over-unders last week, and has a high confidence over 43 on this game.
Interesting. That's a nice low over. My only concern is that especially the Raiders like limiting possessions. They want that clock to keep ticking.
Like the Patriots. They're very similar philosophies, but
right. And that's not exactly good over bait, but the system's chugging along right now. So I might lean in that direction.
And I do feel like the Steelers offense, it's got to come around somewhat. Like, I know we don't like Canada, and I know Deontay Johnson is hurt.
Yes.
But Pickett was better than this last year, and Pickens is good. And their running game is not good. But Jaylen Warren, I feel like Jaylen Warren is better than Najee Harris at this point.
Everyone agrees on that.
Except Matt Canada.
And in the past, I've often been somebody who's like, well, by the way, I'm trying to get a same game parlay to load up, and it won't load up, so I'm just going to ignore that. It's one of those things where it's like, well, Alexander Madison is better than Dalvin Cook. Like a lot of times, the number 2 always looks better because he's not getting like the grinded out carries. But like I keep watching, and no, he just looks better. Warren just looks better in this case than Harris.
Yeah. Receiving also,
I don't think Harris provides that much as a receiver.
Looks better. All right. That does it for our Week 3 preview on the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Reminder, we are here at 11 a.m. Monday and Thursday on YouTube live, and then on your favorite podcast apps. Please review and rate the show. Please tell your friends to watch the show and listen to the show. Get us a bigger audience to spread the love of Schatz and Tanier and DVOA previewing the NFL. I will not be here Monday for Yom Kippur, so Mike gets to sit in with Brian Knowles. Brian Knowles will be back on the podcast airwaves, sitting in for me, and Brian and Mike will wrap up Week 3 for you on Monday, and then I will be back for next Thursday's show to preview Week 4. For Mike Tanier, themessenger.com is where you'll find him. I'm Aaron Schatz at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. Everybody enjoy Week 3, and talk to you next week, all.